Thanks everyone for dropping in your where you're calling in from in the chat. We're all over the board, which is awesome. What I was gonna ask is use the chat as you want. If you also want to like raise your hand, that works great. Just throughout, if you have a comment or question or something, feel free to use both of the avenues in Zoom. And around the midway point, we will have Aaron Thompson, who's going to be speaking in our session. So that will be great. And we will be kind of diving in initially into like all of our community updates for the year. Okay, so happy 2025, everyone, officially from South Asian Success. Really excited to have our community kickoff today. As everyone knows, we launched officially on January 4th, 2024. So we are literally at our 1 year birthday. And you know, what makes that especially special is that we get to celebrate, but we're also like growing up a little bit. I feel like, you know, I always say that make these comments about CS needs to grow up, but like, I think in a weird way, we're growing up as a community. We last year had some really great events around the world and I think a lot of fun, but we also recognize that the CS community and what we want to see and our opportunities are changing. 2024 probably was a year where you felt heavily loaded up with the virtual stuff, right? So we want to try to do what we can to, you know, keep some of that momentum, but also build opportunities for people to meet in different ways. Okay, so let me dive in to this session here. Just a quick reminder, we are going to post this on our YouTube so that people can catch up. Feel free to drop questions in the chat or use your raise hand function and have fun. So our quick agenda, just going to review kind of a little bit about South Asian Success, our mission, goals, update on some of our plans. That's a bullet error. Update on some of our plans for 2025. And we're going to have a session specifically talking about change and growth. I thought that was really kind of a great topic to kick off the year. Many people might be starting a new job, might be, you know, starting a new project at work, might be changing functions like some people have done last year, might be trying something new, or you might be taking on a personal change. So I thought this was a really sort of great topic for us to dive into. And Aaron, as you guys may know or may not know, Aaron worked for a long time, you know, doing customer success training and coaching and took on a big change of his own and kind of got known for that, right? And took on a huge change of his own. So I thought it was really interesting to bring in somebody that could talk to us about that. All right, so let me share a little bit more about what we're up to this year. So a little bit about South Asian Success. Our mission is slightly changed this year. So we're aiming to create a space, a collaborative space where customer success and revenue professionals who identify as South Asian can celebrate our shared culture, learn and grow together, and drive diversity in thought and practice in our workplaces. We're changing up a little bit because we wanted to include the inclusion of revenue in our actual nomenclature in our mission this year, primarily because a lot of us have changed roles in CS, right? We've moved into revenue roles or we've moved into under different teams. Even we might be in related functions now where we're I know like Divya, right, is like building product, doing other things. So it's interesting to kind of be a little bit more inclusive. And I think in one of our live sessions in Toronto, we actually had folks come from revenue. Was it revenue teams, Ron, or was it even revenue teams like sales folks, right? So
yes,
people coming in, we were like, let's do this, let's broaden out, let's make this a little bit of a bigger community. So feel free to recommend to your revenue friends to join us. And we'd love to kind of hear what's on their mind, what are some of the topics, and see if we can really curate a little bit across both of these functions or functional areas, I should say. You might be a CS person doing both. Our backgrounds are officially what makes up South Asia versus like East Asia are these countries. So I just call that out. But we do have folks in our community from other countries and areas all around the world. Oops, forward. Okay, a little bit about that change as I shared. You know, what we're trying to do is be a little bit more relevant and hit on the topics that we need to meet our CS leaders with. So feel free to share with me directly or email us at southasiansuccess2023@gmail if you have ideas on how to grow this either space with membership, but also the leadership and the thought leadership that goes behind it. We would love to have included in some of our content focus on, you know, revenue growth and things like that. Okay, we've had some more changes this year. So change being our theme for the year. Our steering committee has changed up a little bit. So you'll see two new faces on our steering committee this year, Divya and Kirti. Thank you guys so much for joining the steering committee. So as you know, Divya and Kirti have been active members of our blog community, our blog contributor community, and it's been so fantastic getting to know them. We also, you know, have found other ways to connect and grow the community. And ideate quite a bit with like Kirti and I have been ideating constantly. So we're really excited to have them join on the steering committee. Raman and Rohan are staying on our steering committee. And we did see Monica and Shruti decide to pass on the torch. So thank you to them for all of their hard work in the last year. What I also want to kind of point out here is that we will change as a community. We will change leadership. So these are also opportunities for people here that want to take on different roles to step up or to get a chance to do something. In that vein, we actually are looking for global chapter leads. So we have kind of decided that we're going to try to lean into either partnering on or having some more live events. We did a couple last year. We did an event in India where I met Swabi in person. We did an event in Toronto. We did an event in Boston. I think that was it. Can't remember. And we found that those events were really kind of provided a unique avenue. They're not necessarily something everybody can attend, but it does give us that time to personally connect. And I think we all just like to chat and get together over chai or coffee. So what we have done is we've kind of got some folks that were already in locations, already doing things, interested in helping to create events. But if you are in a location that you would like to start to do something, let us know. The way we've been executing has been pretty like casual, pretty low key, but so far really good responses. I think for Toronto, we're going to maybe try to do another partnership event. So just, reach out to me if this is something of interest and we can chat about sort of how to execute that. I really needed music. I feel like it's so quiet. Okay, I'm not going to share the video, but hopefully you caught our year in review video. Um, it was posted on LinkedIn earlier this year, but just outlines all the things that we did do. I mean, I think honestly, when I look back on this year, we did a lot. We did almost 20 unique blog posts from not only our contributor team, but people around the world. We did several live events or several virtual events. We want to make sure to maintain that momentum and provide that value, but we're also looking at, um, what else can we do? So in our blog, for example, right, we're going to keep some of our authors going, our contributing team, but we would love to include new people in the contributors team, right? If you have a unique voice or perspective, or even if you want to talk about like revenue topics, that kind of new area that we are focusing in on, we would love to kind of hear that. Even if you just want to do one blog post, we would love to do that. I know Virginia's on this call. She and I have worked together. Virginia is a member of Success in Black, and we have talked about doing collab posts between the communities. So thinking outside the box, we're open to a lot of cool ideas. So let us know what you may want to do in that vein. And then here is what we have planned for 2025. So we are planning to continue doing chai chats, but we're going to scale them down. We tried initially doing like a monthly chai chat format, and we tried a sort of hosted chai chat format. What we realized, I think it took away from chatting, which is probably what we all want to do when we get together. So obviously we want to keep those live events going, and those are in a way live chai chats. But we want to kind of have focused chai chats, areas where people can get together and chat about a topic, but not have them really be hosted anymore. So we're going to have them be a little bit more free flowing and conversational. Our next one is our Women's Day Chai Chat, which is in March. Hope you will join it. We had a really awesome, I think, high impact Chai Chat last year, and hoping we can do that again, centered around International Women's Day. We are going to continue to do webinars. We're going to change up how we do webinars slightly. We're going to bring a growth focus and a leadership focus to the webinars, but we're going to try to hit on those topics that, are really important for people to actually be able to apply to their lives. So getting a little out of theory, more into practice, and we're going to have some of those webinars coming up. And then we're going to have brand building events. So we're going to introduce some member only events. These are things like member spotlights. So if you did see emails from me, if you are like somebody that is out there that wants to be spotlighted, looking for a job or something else, complete our member spotlight form, and that can get you spotlighted on LinkedIn. What we're also doing is we're going to start doing more content events. So if you are a content creator, there are ways that you can kind of get involved with content events that can help kind of amplify your voice. We're going to do some of these member only kind of activities. Kirti's got her brain going on some ideas that we're going to be launching pretty soon as well. And then the blog, I already mentioned it, but we love our writers, but we want to hear from more folks. So that's kind of our plan for 2025, in addition to this, with some of the live events that you're going to be seeing from our chapters. Any questions or thoughts or comments from anyone?
I'm really excited. I think this year is going to be so cool, so fun, and really impactful too.
Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that, and I hope you're able to join for as many of these as possible, because I think these are going to be obviously a little bit different than last year. The other thing is we will continue to have like our YouTube, so if you aren't able to make events, you can catch them, and they will be available to watch. because we do have the global audience. So we know that we don't always get that, the ability to meet everyone's time zones. Some of the 2025 programming just to share it with you guys. So Aaron is here. Thanks, Aaron, for joining us. Aaron is here to talk about change today. We also have coming up Jan Young. She's going to be talking about executive leadership and kind of her sort of like journey, but also some tactical skills, especially from her community, that we can actually apply if we are down the path of growing ourselves as leaders. Carly is going to be in talking about her job search success, but taking it beyond just like, hey, I'm going to help you get a job. I think if you know Carly, Carly Agar, you know that her company is thinking of job search in a really different way. They're really diving in, leaning into data. So we're gonna like learn a little bit about that and maybe have some skills to apply. Bhumika is coming on to talk about entrepreneurship for those people interested in that vein. And we're gonna have hopefully in February, I'm hoping a CS authors chat talking about some recent CS authors and sort of their paths and their growth as well. And then last but not least, Miranda is scheduled. We haven't gotten her on the schedule just yet, but she's coming up as well to talk about like her growth through roots to her role. So those are just some of the people you may recognize, but hopefully gives you a little preview of what to expect. And again, the calendar is not full. If you have something unique that you'd like to contribute to, let us know because I'd love to have some more of our members on there speaking too. Okay, we're not at the half, but we are early, so we're going to do it anyways. But I've got Aaron. Aaron joined us. Thank you for joining us, Aaron. Really appreciate it. Excited to sort of hear about you and your journey with change. What I wanted to do right now, though, is just take 2 minutes, and I'm going to not do this the best that you're going to do at this, but I'm going to read this because I want to make sure I highlight you well. So Aaron Thompson, as y'all know, is a world-renowned customer success public speaker and educator. He's the CEO and founder of RedSlacks.com, an online library of educational customer success and customer experience best practices. He also works as an advisor and fractional CS leader for organizations that are building and refining their practices. Aaron is a very active participant in the global customer success and experience communities and consistently challenges industry norms to improve and grow both functions. Aaron, I highlighted earlier in the session that why did we want you here today? We as a
I have
community.
no idea. I was wondering that myself, to be honest with you.
Well, no, I mean, aside from we want to gain some of your deep knowledge that you do have, we also noticed that you went through a big change this year, and we as a community are evolving and growing as well. And we really wanted to take, the opportunity to talk to someone who is going through a big change and kind of learn some of what your personal learnings have been. So that's been all of that. And I am gonna actually pass it on to you as well to get started.
Sounds good. Well, hello, everybody. I assume we're dialing in here from all sorts of different time zones and whatnot. So I won't just say good morning, but you ever seen The Truman Show? Anybody know that? The Truman Show? Jim Carrey. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. He says that all the time through that movie. But anyway, could be nighttime, could be morning, whatever the case may be. Thanks for the opportunity to come hang out. This is actually a really good time, to your point, that I just went through a pretty significant change myself. I've been through a few different changes. So in preparation for this, I was kind of putting my thoughts together around like, what do I think of when I think of the word change? I mean, we could talk about it for customer success, onboarding. What drives adoption of your products and services is change management. There are a ton of change management books and courses and all of that from an organizational change perspective and the mindset of the end users. And they didn't necessarily like decide to buy your thing. Now their boss might have bought your thing. And now their boss is like telling them you have to learn this new thing. And they're like, but I'm too busy. I don't have enough time to do my job already. And now you're putting something else on my plate. And, that's where we get into these issues. And I can pull the whiteboard out and we can kind of like look at what that looks like kind of visually. But more conceptually around what is change? Like in the classic 2025 approach, I of course went to ChatGPT and was like, what's the number one thing that's important to keep in mind when it comes to change? And actually, in this case, I thought it spit out some pretty decent gobbledygook. But going back to that sort of like end user change management example, more times than not, that's reactive for them, right? Their boss told them you have to use this thing. I decided to buy this thing, and maybe they get a little input into the purchasing decision, but they may or may not like really want to learn something new. And so how do we navigate that? And then how do we do that for ourselves? When that happens to us, what do we do? And so there's kind of four main categories of what it takes to be adaptable. When I did a little quick research here, first off is your mindset. And you may have heard of the concept of a growth mindset. You guys familiar with that, right? That's like just kind of setting your perspective that like change is good. Like we're like to grow, you have to change, right? If you're gonna go lose weight at the gym, you're gonna have to change some behaviors. You're gonna have to change what you eat. You're gonna have to change how many calories you burn every day. And for many people, that's a good thing. To like, I know for me, God, I'd love to lose some weight at the gym, right? I'm not very good at managing that, right? At this point in my life, but there was a time where I was. And you could make you can go lift a bunch of weights, and now you can get heavier and stronger, or you can go run a bunch and lose a bunch of weight and do the cardio. Either way, you're changing your behavior. And really, the first step is just getting your mindset right. That like, this is a growth mindset. I need to be prepared and even seeking out opportunities for change. And then the next one is control, and like identify what you can and cannot control in this change. And we can oftentimes control our own reactions to things, but we may or may not be able to control the actual incoming stimulus that's forcing us to change, if you will. The third is patience. Give yourself time. Realize that change takes time, both for you and your teammates and your organizations, depending on if we're looking at like personal, professional change, or like organizational, kind of like change management, driving adoption of your products and services, et cetera. And I'll walk you through kind of what some main, like, big times of change in my life. And then finally, number 4 is perspective. Reframing this as an opportunity as opposed to like a negative thing. Because with every opportunity, or with every challenge in life, comes an opportunity. And if you've ever, and by the way, let's see. So I should introduce myself. I'm Aaron Thompson. I have worked in technology my entire career. I've worked with customers my whole career as well. Going all the way back to 15 years old, checking people into a health club. I was a paper boy. I took call center phone calls in the health insurance space for a few years. I got into tech. I've been in customer support, customer service. I was a programmer, SQL Server programmer for 6 years. And all of it was customer facing, working with customers, whether to fix bugs, problems, whatever, or in that more traditional, like, technical account manager role, et cetera. And then in 2015, May 13th, 2015, I went to lunch and I got back at 1:30 in the afternoon. I was running a team of technical account managers at a company called Jive Software. Jive was like Slack before Slack, basically. It was a collaboration tool before most people even knew what that was. And everything was going great until they made a couple of poor strategic decisions. And so anyway, long story short, I go to lunch, and my VP that I report up to says, "Aaron, come on in my office real quick." I'm like, "Hey, what's up, Kevin?" He's like, "Well, we need to let some people go." And so I grab my notebook and I grab my pen, and I'm like, "Okay, how do we do this? Like, this is gonna suck. Like, do I have to like hit a salary number collectively, or like, do we look at tenure? Like, how do we do this?" And he was like, "Oh no, we're letting you go. I'm letting you go." And I was floored. I never saw that change coming. I never expected, like, I had a job since I was 15. I mean, all the way through college. Many times in my life, I had 2 jobs. I'd go to an 8 to 5, taking phone calls or whatever, and then I'd go to the gym. Actually, I was a personal trainer at night, and like trying to help people like make change that way. And so I never saw that coming, and I was just completely floored. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. I remember kind of stumbling around out of the office, going to a restaurant, like bar, pool hall thing that was down the street that had Wi-Fi. Pulled out my laptop and went to LinkedIn and was like, "Well, this won't be too bad. I'll just like reach out to my network. Like, I've got friends, I've been in tech for a while." What I hadn't realized was my network existed basically only of people at Jive Software, because those were the people I worked with and that I had connected with. I had never really truly built a personal brand or a personal network outside of whatever business I was in at any given time. And so, as you could imagine, that certainly did not help my job seeking initiatives. And so, long story short, there was a startup here in town who was hiring a head of customer success to fix the churn problem. And with 20 something years in customer support, I was able to get that job. I came in on day one, and basically it was like, "We'll give you 12 months. They had a 40% year over year churn rate. So obviously they couldn't grow, and they wanted to be acquired, et cetera. And so they were looking to, fix the problem, plug up the hole, if you will. Month to month contracts, some were tens of dollars a month, no lie. So a whole bunch of customers, very small ACV, very difficult to do without like a robust tech stack and things like that, which of course they didn't have being a startup. So anyway, they hire me on. I come in on day one. I pull out my laptop. Now that I'm the head of customer success at this company, and I go to Google and I type in what is customer success. Now that I'm the head of customer success, I thought I knew what it was, right? I thought I knew. It's like support 2.0 or like account management, basically. Lo and behold, I found the industry. I found the conferences and the tech players, the CSPs, the networks, the communities, and I dove in. I studied it. I implemented a strategy, and in 12 months, that 40% was down to 8% year over year churn rates. And at that point, I thought that worked. Holy cow! I'm gonna go become an entrepreneur. At 38 years old, with like a 2-year-old son, just recently went through a pretty nasty breakup, which I'll get back to as well, because there's more change, right? So I'm single, and I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm going to go do this as a consultant. If it worked for that company, it'll work for other companies. And so I'm out there, and I started my first company. I'm in Portland, Oregon, Pacific Northwest, if anybody's not familiar. And my first company was portlandcustomersuccess.com. Like, I was going to be the guy here, And so I networked and I met with all the founders of all the startups and stuff. And at that time, there was a decent little like tech kind of industry here. Certainly nothing like down in Silicon Valley or whatever. But there was a market here that I could sell my services into. And long story short, I learned very quickly that it was a very small total addressable market, and I needed to get out. And so I started going to San Francisco a lot. And at that point, I met two guys named Todd and Andrew, Todd Eby and Andrew Marks. They're the co-founders of Success Coaching. That's the donkey with the plunger logo, if you've ever seen that. Certifications in customer success. Well, I had been a trainer and an instructional designer in the tech space as part of my journey. And now I had the head of CS experience and a proven methodology. And so I was a really good fit as a partner. And so I came in with them and actually was the chief revenue officer at Success Coaching for the last almost 7 years, working with them to grow that business. And then just about 6 months ago, I started thinking, all right, I'm ready to go back into tech. Now, about 7 years or so of learning and development and training was great, but I wanted to get back into a more technical role, or business, I should say. And so anyway, long story short, I exited that company just about 8 weeks ago, something like that, just before Thanksgiving. And so there's more change, right? And I didn't know what was next. I couldn't just go find another job and then like give them like a 2-week notice, because we were equal owners in the business. I'm a partner. Like, we had to strategize on how do I get out of the business without disrupting it too terribly much. And so anyway, we figured all that out, and now I have just started. I am on day 4 of a new role. I'm working in a company called Sturdy.ai, and Sturdy is an AI. It's a omni-channel AI tool that basically ingests all of your customer communications, whether it's support tickets, email, chat, you name it, and then it applies machine learning to it, and then actually outputs up signals of things to work on. So based on natural language models, what they're talking about, here's what we would suggest you work on today, this week, whatever the case may be. And you can interact with it. There's some OpenAI underneath it where where you can just like interact with it, kind of like ChatGPT, right? Like, tell me all the customers who are read this month, or whatever the case may be. And I am the head of growth and business development over there. So I'm just learning the product now. I am drinking from the fire hose as we speak. I am completely overwhelmed and don't know what's going to happen. So when we think of change, there's all these different types of change, right? That's basically sort of my background and all the different change. Back in 2000, what was it? 2010, I got divorced. And up to that point in my life, I thought I had my personal life and my professional life, right? In terms of change, like my roles. And then I got divorced, and I can assure you that affected my professional life. All of a sudden, I couldn't concentrate at work, and I didn't really care. Like I had so much going on over here in terms of change. And then a number of years later, that layoff story happens. And now that affects my personal life. All of a sudden, I don't know what to do with myself. And I've never been laid off and haven't really been without a job forever. And I had no idea what that would do to me mentally and psychologically. And so when we think of change, or we find ourselves in one of these situations that maybe we didn't, I don't know if I wanted to erase that or not, but that's all right. We didn't want to necessarily be in. I like to think of it as a pendulum where you've got like things are going really well, good, happy, whatever. And then you got over here, you got bad, mad. You think about this with your customers too. I used to train my teams to kind of go around or kind of place this mentally in their heads when they got themselves in like a heated situation with a customer, right? And so this is a pendulum, right? And things are fine. It's just kind of swinging right there in the middle. And then maybe you have a big, horrible thing that happens to you. It either happens to you, or you make a big mistake, or the customer's upset, or whatever. Right now, we're reacting to this change that's coming towards us. And we're in this position that we wouldn't necessarily want to be in. It's important to remind ourselves that when we are here, we have an opportunity to swing this pendulum out to an area of good, happy, positive, whatever, that you maybe never could have had you not gone through the hard times. It's sort of like any relationship, right? A marriage that goes through a tough patch can come out stronger on the other end. Me and my best friend didn't become best friends until after we punched each other in the face in high school. Then we were friends. We went through a little bit of a fight, and now we're best friends. Been best friends for 30 something years. And so when you find yourself here going through difficult change, remind yourself that with every challenge is an opportunity. And the opportunity in this case is to actually create a relationship or a situation that is actually in a better place than it would have necessarily been able to get to without. Is it okay to just like have a conversation? I mean, I don't feel like I need to like just present. Like what do you all think about that idea in terms of, and like when you're here again, you wouldn't have chosen here. Like one example is at Jive, T-Mobile was our customer, and one time we brought down the product at this really important critical time, and so they were very, very upset. Severity one escalated, like we've all been there. And in that moment, I wouldn't have wanted to go there, but when we resolved it and got them to what they needed, we actually were able to improve our relationship with them over time because we went through that rough patch. There's kind of like a business application of that. But would the group agree? Would you disagree? What do you all think? It's kind of hard to read the room here because there's really no cameras on. I feel like I'm sort of presenting just like on a news broadcast or something. But any thoughts, anybody? I got an applause.
Yeah. I have thoughts, but I want to wait and see if somebody else wants to unmute and chime in. Feel free to unmute and chime in if anybody does have any thoughts.
With
Well,
like 12 of us on here, we don't need it to be so formal. Okay?
Yeah. So I think like a lot of what you said, I feel like I've gone through this a lot in the last year. A lot of these same like feelings, like realizing my network was not the network that was going to help me succeed in the next, sort of phase and things like that. But there's one thing that like I think I don't know if you become like better the more negative you go through. I don't know, it's kind of weird to say that, but like you become practiced, but like I tend to be like a glass half full person, like give me like the most dire situation, I'm still gonna be like, but there was like something rosy. And so I think like that is training. I think that's like brain training almost of like, hey, not everything in life has been rosy, but I don't like sit and dwell in it. But I think that is literally having gone through those things and actually like understanding what in that situation was positive. Simultaneously, though, if you don't get out of that mindset, I feel like you can kind of spiral down the other way, right? And that's also like challenging for folks. But I think for me, it's almost like unfortunately, like going through enough bad, you kind of go like, oh, okay, I can overcome. Like this isn't that bad, or you start to see like the opportunity. So I could definitely relate to that, but
Yeah, you
no,
start to realize that's where growth happens, right? Is during change. That's kind of like the analogy. I don't think I got back to that analogy with the gym, but like you go and you work out and you get sore. That's because you changed your behavior somehow, some way. But that's also a sign that you're growing muscle, or whatever, whether you're doing cardio, whatever the case might be. That's where growth happens, is in those uncomfortable moments of change. Any other thought? I see a few folks. Yeah, Roman.
Yeah, I think I resonate your thoughts, and I think what Parul said as well. I think it helps. It's personally helped me build resilience, and it gives you confidence that there's light at the end of the tunnel, right? You don't have to just give up because you're in a bad place. Uh, and similarly with the good times, it gives you a sense of caution that when everything's going well, don't lose sight of what you're doing or what your focus is, and just start celebrating, and not realize that things could also go the other way. And so yeah, it helps you build that balance between the good and the bad, and helps you grow, like you said, eventually mentally, that how do you handle a situation when it arises, whether it's good or bad, and not panic or not go crazy and chaotic, and give up on things. So yeah, it just helps grow your mind.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, right? When we try to keep it from super high, super low. Like when things are high, like you don't want to not celebrate successes, but you also want to be realistic to like, we got to stay focused here. Can't rest on our laurels, or else it could come down and get back off the rails. Pragya?
Yeah, it was good to hear, Aaron, your the journey and how there's always change there. But I was wondering, I've been trying to do things last couple of years, and more from the perspective of growing as a person, as a professional. And one of the things I sometimes hit upon is just the fatigue of thinking about, oh, what's the next thing? How do I kind of pivot from here? How do you learn new things, or constantly trying to learn? So is that something you've experienced where you're really fatigued with all that and you just want to like take a break from it all? How do you deal with that?
I think that's a very good point. Change fatigue is real, both personally and then organizationally. That's why we don't want to throw too much change at our customers at any given time, right? That's why there is change management methodology, because we want to make sure that we're walking them through the process and not overwhelming them with just too much. And for myself, yeah, I mean, like personally, I feel it as well, right? Like right now, I am just getting started at Sturdy, and the whole proverbial fire hose. Um, if it was like this forever, I would get fatigued. I would get exhausted. I would, right? Like this type of pace can't last forever. You have to get your legs under you, and then you can kind of start to minimize the change. But I think there's always some element of change, right? We're always going through something. It's just a matter of like, is it overwhelming amounts or not? And what can we do to limit the amount? And I think it goes back to again, it was mindset, control, patience, and perseverance were kind of the four things to keep in mind. And so mindset we've covered, right? Just get your perspective. The growth mindset, change is good. Okay. Control. That's an important one. Control what you can control, and don't worry about what you can't control, because there's going to be things that we can't do anything about, but we might still be worrying about them or something like that. That would then add to the fatigue, the change fatigue, if we don't just kind of really be crystal clear on what we can and cannot control. And then patience, giving yourself the time to change. Like a little bit of change over a long period of time is much more impactful than a whole bunch of change over a short period of time. Same, again, going back to the analogy of going to the gym. If I can go to the gym for 20 minutes a day for 5 years, it's going to be a lot better than going for 8 hours a day for, however many weeks the same amount of time would quantify. And so change is all about giving yourself that patience. And I think that can help as well. But again, like, I don't know. This is just my experience. Like, I feel like we've got other folks on there that maybe have some thoughts as well. I'd love to hear from the group if so inclined.
I know that Julie put in the chat as well that a growth mindset is necessary, but also the hurdles and obstacles make us stronger and more adaptable for the future. I think that you said that much more poignantly, Julie, than I was trying to say. So thank you for putting that.
No worries. Sorry, I'm eating my lunch and I figure you guys don't want to see me inhale like pasta right now. So I'm doing everybody a favor. But yeah, I think, to your point, we always learn, grow, and evolve, right? Like that's the hope in all of this, and that's growth mindset, right? But then there's those points in our life where we become a little bit complacent, and uncomfortableness is actually a better thing for us as professionals and for personal growth. And so I think navigating that part of the change is always interesting, right? Like, when is it okay to be really good at my job, but I'm not bored and I'm still growing and learning, versus when am I so good at this and now it's boring to me and I want to do more, right? Like I want to be challenged and move to the next best thing. And so I think that's the piece that I've always struggled with, and I'm learning my logic for this upcoming year is growth. And so how do I navigate that on a personal and professional level as well? So thinking about adaptability and flexibility in all the things that we do is kind of the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah, I would agree. And some pasta sounds good right now, if I'm honest.
It's leftover, so it's not that good, guys.
As every good lunch should be. My lunch today is last night's dinner, and lunch yesterday was the night before's dinner. That's just kind of how it always works in my world. Pearl, you got something?
I had a question though for you, Aaron. So, okay, obviously our community is, and we do have a question in the chat, Divya, I'm going to get to yours in a second, but our community is really global, right? So a lot of people have taken on big change, like moving to a different country, or, trying something really, really out of the box. And they are maybe familiar with that. But maybe what feels scary is like, hey, I maybe want to change jobs. I maybe want to apply for a new, and I'm in a great job that I like, but I still maybe want something more. Or maybe I have this growth path and I want to go do something else, right? That I'm really curious, like you made this big change this year after having a career for, several years. How did that feel? How did you overcome that sort of sense of the scary, right? Which is like going into this unknown. And obviously sounds like you landed somewhere exciting that you want to be, but like that, overcoming that when you are in a stable place, maybe you aren't in the bad mood zone and you're in the middle zone, but you might, you're putting yourself out there. So how did you think about that?
Yeah. I think, that's a great question, especially for somebody like myself who, I'm on the other side of 45, like I'm closer to 50 than 40. I've got two stepsons and my son now. I got remarried back in 21, and the eldest is in college. The middle one's a junior, and the youngest one's a freshman. I've got basically 3 years until they're all kind of off to college or out of the house or whatever they end up doing with their big change and transformation. And so it's not like an ideal time to go like pivot my career and go be the new kid on the block. That was definitely a frightening thing. And being in a place where I couldn't really figure out what was next until I worked with my business partners about exiting. So I had to kind of leap without knowing where the bottom was. There's a great quote that an old friend gave me that it said, even eagles need a push, or something like that, right? Like, like eagles get pushed out of the nest, and that's what gets them to start flapping their wings so they can then fly and soar. I had to give myself that push, and it's not easy. There's no, I think, simple way to like not what'd you say? It was like this, the sense of scary or something like that was how you put it. I think that's okay. I think it's okay to take that on. Granted, I have a different experience over the last 9 years since founding my first company as an entrepreneur than I would have, though my whole career before that was working as a W-2, as an employee working different companies. And so maybe that experience helped as well, where I had to go through a lot of change. I had to figure out how to make something out of nothing and still support my son and all of that. And so maybe I'm a little more comfortable with not knowing necessarily where the net is than I would have been, but it's still scary, and there is no way around that. I think confidence, I think self-awareness becomes super important. Understanding what I'm good at and what I'm not just what I like to do and what I don't like to do, but what am I like, where are my strengths, right? And then leaning into those and trying to find something that lends itself to those. That was the nice thing when I was the CRO at Success Coaching. A lot of my job was public speaking. If you go to Red's, here I'll put it in. Let me just put a couple of links in for everybody on my sites. So like redslacks.com is my public speaking site. There's nothing for sale there. It's a way to contact me. There's free articles and webinars and podcasts. If I can get a link to this, I'll put that on there and help cross promote it once we've got this posted, etc. And then the other one is Sturdy. Oh, I got to make sure I plug Sturdy now that I'm there. But there is no way around like the fear factor that comes in with it. But when I was at Success Coaching, I was doing a lot of public speaking. I was building that Red Slacks kind of co-brand at the same time, and I loved doing it. I love being in front of people and either on a stage or on a webinar or a podcast or whatever, and publicly speaking. And what I learned was 90% of the people in the world, that is the number one biggest fear they have, is public speaking. That's the most common fear that most people have in terms of like a phobia, is having to be in front of other people. And I'm like, I like it. Like, I'm not just not scared of it. I thrive on it. And so I'm going to lean into that, because not only is it something I like, it's something I'm good at, which those oftentimes go hand in hand, by the way. We're usually good at stuff we like, and we usually like stuff that we're good at, right? Like, I mean, very rarely, like I suck at golf, but I still like it, you know, but I'm sure I would like it more if I didn't suck at it, you know, like they kind of work hand in hand. And so I had to kind of take a step back and be like, all right, what do I really want to do? What am I good at? Where can I add value the quickest? And what don't I like to do? What do I want to change? And what I like I said, what I wanted to do is get back into a technical company, but still leveraging my public speaking and business development and networking kind of skill set. And luckily, I was able to piece that together with this company at Sturdy that is a very technical product, you know, AI and large language models and vector-based algorithms and stuff. Like like I said, day 4 here, so like I am still getting my understanding of the tech, but I certainly know how to go out and get in front of people and talk about what we do and who I am and what we can do together, et cetera. So I think that once I had that figured out, it took some of the fear away. And then I reminded myself of, you probably don't know who this is, but his name's Godard Abel. Godard founded a number of companies, most recently G2 Crowd. If you've ever gone to G2, if you're ever buying software, that's the place to go. It's like Yelp reviews of software and services. And he founded G2. And he was speaking at a conference when I was just getting started as an entrepreneur, and I was terrified. I didn't know if I was going to be able to be successful. How am I going to pay my bills? How is this going to work, etc. And Godard gave this analogy of climbing a mountain. And he said, if you're climbing to the top of a mountain and you just decide, I'm not going to quit, you can't lose. Avalanche, you know, gets you snowed in, you dig out, you keep moving. You break your leg, you tourniquet it up, you keep moving. Whatever happens along the way, you just keep moving, and you make a conscious decision that you won't stop until you get to the top of that mountain, no matter what. It takes all the chance out of it. And for me, it took all the fear out of it. It got me less scared to be an entrepreneur and take this leap, because in that case, I can decide. I can choose that I'm going to do this. And yes, there's going to be obstacles and hurdles and things that I have to overcome. But something about that mentally, that mindset switch of, it's the decision. It's no longer up to chance. It's a decision that eventually I'm going to get to the top of that mountain no matter what. And for me, that gives me a lot of confidence and brings a sense of relief in these scary times. Kind of, it doesn't remove the fear, but it allows me to manage it more effectively and address it in a purposeful way, right? Not so I'm no longer like, I hope, or I'm not saying not to pray or whatever, like, but if you feel like you don't have any control over the success or failure, that's a hell of a lot more scary than I'm going to decide to make this, to do this, or whatever the case might be. Thanks, Rohan.
I love that. I love that. That's awesome. And no, thank you for diving into that, because that was like I think a really, I don't know, you really took it thorough. So I like that. I wanted to take time for one more question. Divya did have to drop, but we are recording, so we can answer this question for the recording. Do you have strategies to promote change management in customers who are comfortable with status quo and reluctant to change? That I thought was an interesting question to kind of the flip side of our own selves, but the people that we manage. So maybe as a last kind of question for you, Aaron, for today, what do you think on that?
Yeah, I alluded to this earlier, and we don't have a lot of time for me to go through all the ins and outs of it, but there is this concept that I made up years ago called the trough of disillusionment. And so you've got, let's say I'm measuring productivity over time. And before your thing, I was this productive doing whatever the activity is. Okay. I'm doing it in spreadsheets. I don't have a tool that does it for me or whatever, and I'm not productive. And then your marketing and sales materials will promise an increase in that productivity. They will make me faster, make it more efficient, whatever the case may be. And we think that's going to be a straight line. But of course, we all know that's not how learning something new works. We will get less productive before we get more productive. If it takes you time to learn something, you now have less time to do the thing before. And so it's impossible not to become less productive at the beginning. And the deeper this goes and the longer this goes, that calculates to your time to value clock, or TTV metric. And the longer that is and deeper that is, the more likely they are to give up. And what that looks like is oftentimes, again, end users especially, right? They may or may not have any input into purchasing your thing. And now my stupid boss bought this stupid thing, and I'm already too busy, and I don't have time to learn the new thing, and I can't do it. I'm just going back, forget it. I quit. I give up, whatever, right? That's when they go back and they yell at their boss, and then the boss calls you and it's like, what is going on? My team's upset. Why is this so hard? Sales said it would be 2 lines of code on our website. We'd be up and running in a week, and what the hell's going on? Blah, 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 right? That is because this trough has taken over. And so what we need to do in implementation, onboarding, go live, that uber critical stage of the customer lifecycle when they transition from pre-sale to post-sale, is we need to manage that trough. We need to get them, first off, baseline where that line is. And before I sell you anything, I need to know how long you are spending on the thing that we're going to improve, so that I can then tell you when you've at least gotten back to that line. Because now your time that you've invested down here is exactly that, an investment. Because now we can start pulling you up. The other thing to do is to make them successful early and often, create acceleration from, get them excited as an end user, right? Show them what's in it for me. They may not have had any input into it, but by God, are you lucky that your boss bought this thing, because you're going to get to save X amount of hours or whatever your value proposition is for those end users. This is total realized value. That's typically not until the first contract is up. This is initial value. And that's what we've got to be able to capture. I want to And frankly, how it would work is they would be like this, right? They learn something, then they get back here, then they learn something new, and now they got to learn something new. And it's not like a straight line anyway, but getting them to that initial compelling initial business value stops that time to value clock. Once I'm at least back where I started, all right, it's all good. But if we get stuck down here too long, that's when we can lose them. And the seeds of churn are planted early. You cannot secure a renewal at onboarding, but you can sure as hell lose it. And when we do, it's because we didn't manage that change management effectively. And so we want to understand what is the value proposition for the end users, what does this baseline look like, and show them how you're making their life better, even if it might take a year, 3 years, 5 years to get to that total value realization. But that's kind of what it looks like from a change management perspective, at least like visually and like psychologically. Now there's books and courses and all sorts of stuff on how to tactically do that, but that's the trough of disillusionment. The better we can manage that. Facebook did this amazing back in the day. And all the social media apps do it amazing now today, right? First time you sign up, it walks you through and teaches you how to use it, and you start getting value immediately. I had my big aha moment with Facebook back in 2004 or whatever, where it had me connect with an old high school friend that I hadn't talked to in like 20 years. And we were chatting just immediately. He happened to be on Facebook, and holy Colin, how are you? What was going on? Like, I hadn't talked to him in 20 years. I was like, this is unbelievable. Now, 20 something years later, I don't even have Facebook. I hate Facebook. Like, there's too much crap on Facebook. Like, but in that moment, it was amazing, right? I'm an Instagram only person. People tend to just post like dog pictures and cat videos and shit. It's way more fun. But anyway, I digress. That the social media apps do amazingly well. They get you that aha moment as quickly as possible to show you as an end user, this is the value you're going to get by, in this case, investing time in our product. You're not really paying for it with monetary cost.
No, I love this. I actually need to apply this in because I'm working on a client launch too right now, and I think it's like a great. We've been talking about without tooling, like how to continue to deliver to the user some, kind of valuable elements as they are getting started, and that, it's unfortunately it's be a little bit more manual, but than the social media apps. But I love that. This is perfect timing for that. Thank you, Divya, for asking that question, even though you had to drop. Well, thank you, Aaron. I can't say it enough. This was great. And I think just the engaging content here. And for everybody listening, hopefully you also have learned a lot about Aaron and like your very cool perspective. So thanks for sharing very openly about your journey. Just to wrap up the webinar, I just want to share with everyone one last kind of slide. Stay connected with us at South Asian Success. So for those people that want to be a member, we do ask that you register through our portal on Melting Spot. It's just like a registration portal, and it houses all of our member only activities that we're going to be sharing. This QR code takes you to all the links that we have. We have a calendar of fun stuff coming up, as I shared, and we also have a WhatsApp community. So join us. Hopefully you can help us make 2023 a really great year of change and growth for this community. And looking forward to connecting with everyone further this year. So thanks again for all that were able to join and those that are listening on YouTube. Thanks, Aaron, for being our awesome first guest of 2025. So, fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for the chance to come hang out. And hope everybody has a great year. Onward and upward. Here we go into 25. Thank you. Thanks again.
Take care, all. Have a great day.
Bye.